Bryan Kohberger was allegedly able to stab 4 Idaho college students to death in just a few minutes, well, it's a big question for the prosecution to explain to the rest of us, specifically the jury, but some insight into his past may give us some clues. Turns out Kohberger knew how to use a knife. Bryan worked as a fish cutter. He was a fillet man when he was in high school, trained to cut and fillet raw fish. I know how to do it. Means you got to know how to use a knife. We'll see how Kohberger was.
This is Reporter Room with Jessica Della Davies.
Hello, Reporter Room investigators. Come on in, come on in. Bryan Kohberger did cross the line from being simply an academic scholar into being a deranged, obsessed person. This is according to multiple experts. Let's discuss. Bryan Kohberger, BK, was diligent in prep and cleanup, and he made our job really hard. This was someone who tried really hard not to be detected. His phone joined the Wi-Fi at the restaurant. Boom, mic drop. So I told you guys I thought geofencing was going to play a role in all of this. For those of you that don't know what geofencing is, let me just bring that up for you. And what it's for, let me move myself over here. So I've told you guys since I reported out a year ago that I thought this was going to play a huge role, and it turns out it did. So geofencing is simply the ability to create a virtual fence, an imaginary boundary or a map, and it alerts your phone. It sends out a handshake on their server and on the phone that records the fact. Like, just take this for example. You go into a coffee shop, you've got your cell phone on, you're scrolling, and you get offered to do what? To use their Wi-Fi. Now, whether you accept or don't accept, it doesn't matter. The server that offered you the use of the Wi-Fi records this, and your device records this as a handshake, and that is geofencing. So it can be used for good things. It can be used for bad things, but it's definitely being used more and more by law enforcement. And this is just a little bit of an idea of how this is just Snapchat. It just shows you how the geofencing works. So I don't want to get too wonky and go too much into that. I want to stay focused on Bryan Kohberger. All right. So he did have connections to the victims, you guys. So the Celebrate team pointed out that despite law enforcement's hard work, there was a period of time when the crimes happened until identifying and arrest, the phone seizure, and then the phone extraction. So the best information was most likely wiped or scrubbed from his phone. And this is something that we talked about last week, that I told you guys that just because law enforcement could not find proof that he was Papa Roger, they haven't said it was someone else. They know who it is, and they've excluded him. They just simply weren't able to find the proof. That's different than he's not Papa Roger. So I just want to make that difference of just because they couldn't find the proof of something is just because he was really good at scrubbing his phone, but he didn't get it all. So Jared said, but with the time and attention, we were able to paint a picture of what he did on this night. And even though some of the best stuff wasn't there, he certainly did not cover all of his tracks. Now, BK's digital footprint also included a passive log of Wi-Fi networks that his phone sought out. So was one of those the Bluetooth linked to Kaylee Gonzalez? Remember, law enforcement never returned her Apple Watch or her laptop. It had Bluetooth on it. So as we find out more, will this link back to Kaylee? But they said that on the night of the crimes, when BK turned off his phone just before, his phone was searching for a Wi-Fi signal, and he was not at home. So they were able to put him in the car. And this also explains why Ann Taylor was forced to say that he was out stargazing on a foggy night. So while motive and connection between BK and the victims was frustrating to a lot of the victims' families and to us as a true crime community, there is digital evidence that is now being shared with all of us that shows that BK may have encountered at least one of their victims at the Mad Greek. Now, the Mad Greek owner has denied that Bryan Kohberger ever set foot in her restaurant. But, let's be real, guys. She didn't want her Mad Greek restaurant to be associated with these crimes. I get it. But there's no way that a former employee says that they remember Bryan Kohberger visiting. So I just want to show the receipts on that. So this is Bryan Kohberger ate at the restaurant where 2 of the victims lived. So I'm not going to read this to you, but this is just a member of the staff. And I think a member of the staff is going to probably know more about this and maybe be more willing to be forthcoming about this than the owner. The owner, there's no way the owner was standing in the front of the house at that restaurant the entire time and saw every single person that came in and out. So an investigator with insight to the case told People that authorities know about the visits that BK made to the restaurant, and both the owner, staff, and owners have been interviewed by law enforcement. And security footage was also gathered by law enforcement. And the former staffer told the magazine that there was nothing out of the ordinary regarding BK's visits to the establishment, but said his order was noteworthy as he would check that his meal didn't touch animal products in accordance to his strict vegan diet. But we know he wasn't really that strict of a vegan, right? Because his knife sheath that he left behind at the crime scene underneath into the side of Maddie was leather. So he wasn't that strict of a vegan. I suspect this was either some posing or he was doing vegan because of his, for health reasons. Or he likes animals but doesn't like humans. I don't know. So unlike the DNA on the knife sheath found at the crime scene, the digital evidence didn't deliver one big aha moment to the Celebrite team. Instead, it emerged slowly through fractured call logs, gaps in data, and strange behavioral shifts. So again, sometimes what someone doesn't say or what someone doesn't do is just as interesting as what someone does say and what someone does do. So there wasn't a single smoking gun, Jared said, but we found that the digital evidence told the story of preparation on the part of Bryan Kohberger. DNA can tell you who did it, but the digital evidence showed us intent. And this is what we were going to testify to. And Heather emphasized that proving intent required building a baseline of normal digital behavior and then watching how it drastically changed leading up to the November 13th of 2022 date. She said, if you can prove normal behavior and then go, whoa, this is completely abnormal, and that moment lines up with a crime, well, that's not an accident. And that's what the periods of silence show us. The fact that he switched off his Wi-Fi and powered down his phone and then powered up his phone and turned his Wi-Fi back on show that this was not an accident. So I do think he scrubbed a lot of his data off his phone. And just because of the Papa Roger, we can't prove that it was him, doesn't mean it wasn't him. If you haven't subscribed, please hit the subscribe button. It's free and it helps me out a lot. Give this a thumbs up and drop me a comment. Let me know what you think about all of this in the comment section below.
I got nightmares in my head, I fear that the thoughts build up until I can't hear, that my mind fills up into a creature, and it haunts me somewhere much deeper. I got nightmares in my head, I fear that the thoughts build up until I can't hear, that my mind fills up into a creature, and it haunts me somewhere much deeper. I've been feeling weird, I can't seem to focus good enough. Nothing's really clear, sometimes it could be a little tough. I just need to feel like the end's in sight for me, but let's be really real, anxiety can foggy all this stuff.